In this video, we will look at running a network discovery from your SolarWinds Observability SaaS tenant. First, we'll talk briefly about what a network discovery is. Then I will show you how to perform a network discovery through the SolarWinds Observability SaaS web interface. Network discoveries scan your on-prem and hybrid infrastructure for entities that can be monitored in your SaaS observability tenant. Details on what metrics can be observed are discussed in the SolarWinds Observability SaaS Fundamentals class, as well as documented on the Success Center knowledge base. Network discoveries require that the SolarWinds Observability SaaS network collector be deployed in your infrastructure environment to poll the supported entities. Entities to monitor can be added by adding individual nodes by IP address. You can also add nodes and their entities by scanning subnets or a range of IP addresses. The scan will look for all supported entities on the node, such as volumes and interfaces, that can be monitored. Network discoveries can be performed through the SolarWinds Observability SaaS web interface or through the web console installed on the network collector itself. In this training, we will look at doing a network discovery through the SaaS web interface. To see how to perform a network discovery through the network collector web console, please view the Deploying SolarWinds Observability Network Collectors video on the customer portal. That video is also useful if you have not yet deployed a network collector and would like to walk through that process with a training video. Now let's look at actually running a discovery through the SaaS Observability web interface. As with all entity monitoring, discoveries begin with Add Data. So I'm going to go to Add Data, I'm going to go to Network, and I'm going to click on Discover Network Devices. The first step is to select the collector to run the discovery through. Collectors are listed here, but if you have not deployed a collector, you will select Deploy a New Collector. Again, please look to the Deploying Network Collector on-demand video to learn about how to configure and deploy a collector, as well as run a network discovery through the collector web console. I'm going to select my SaaS collector here, and I'm going to say Next. Next, we'll choose how to discover entities. You can scan a range of IP addresses, designate specific subnets by CIDR, or enter individual IP addresses, as we mentioned. I'm going to use a CIDR subnet here, and I'm just going to add that in. And I'm going to say Next. Now in this screen, you're going to choose whether to scan for devices that only respond to ICMP or not. You'll want to set this configuration carefully, as there may be a considerable amount of devices, such as printers, that would respond to a ping and that you may not want to monitor. You can also choose your preferred polling method, whether SNMP or WMI. Now, both methods will be tried. But if you are scanning a subnet of primarily network devices, you may wish for SNMP to be tried first. If the subnet is mostly Windows servers, you may change this to WMI. This is not a necessary change, but one that could help your scan run faster. You also need to add credentials for authentication, such as SNMP version 3 and WMI. These are necessary not only to discover entities, but also if you choose to monitor them, the credentials are necessary for polling them in the future. You can also reorder credentials to any order you want, and we'll see that here in just a moment. That way they're tried in the order that you prefer during the discovery. So for SNMP, I have existing credentials on both. Otherwise, I would add my new credentials here. So I'm going to say Use Existing, and I'm just going to select what I have here and say Save. And now I can reorder those credentials if I choose to. This would just tell it which one of these credentials to try first, and that may just depend on what you're scanning. I'm going to do the same thing for WMI. I do have some existing credentials here, and I'm going to choose those, and I'm going to say Save. And once again, I could reorder those if I chose to, but I'll just leave them at the default here, and I'm going to say Next. Next, I'm going to name the discovery and adjust the timeouts and retries if necessary. So we'll just call this one my lab test. And I can give it a description. Now, I'm not going to turn on this switch here to automatically import all discovered devices and entities. I want to be able to review what's there and then be able to maybe determine which ones I do want to add monitoring and which ones I don't. But if you know that everything is picked up in that subnet you do want to monitor, you can just turn this on. And once they're discovered, we'll just add them for monitoring and start to pull them and show those metrics in the observability web interface. So the retries and timeouts here, typically on the retries and the timeouts, these tend to work pretty well on a lot of different networks. So what you may want to do is, unless you see one here that you just know is not going to work, you might just want to leave these at default and let the discovery run. Chances are it's going to run well. If you have a problem with one of these after the discovery, or if it times out, you can come back and adjust these numbers and then run it again. In many cases, the default numbers work very well, but just review them quickly to see if anything jumps out at you as something you'll want to change. I'm going to go ahead and say next here, and I'm going to review my summary. Once again, I have that option to automatically import devices if I want to, but I'm going to leave this as is with my summary, just review my settings, make sure I have everything I want. And then I'm going to go ahead and I can either save it to run later, or I can save and I can run it now. So I'm going to go ahead and say save and run. Now I can go right to my events page under Analyze and view the status of this discovery. It's just getting going, so it's not quite there yet. So we don't have it currently, but that's all right. It just has to get up and running first. Or I can go to my settings area and go to my network discoveries. And you'll see that this one is actually running. Now I'm just going to let that one run. You can see that I have another one that ran here on a different subnet. So once complete, as you'll see over here, you can see if anything new was discovered. In this case, it wasn't. We had already added several nodes from this particular subnet for monitoring, but it did pick up a few that had changed and maybe some entities on those nodes that we would want to import. So this will tell you, do you have anything new? Do you have anything changed? And give you the options for importing those. I'm going to come over here and click on the ellipses. And I can either review the discovered entities, I can edit, I can import all results on the spot. I'm going to click on Review Discovered Hosts here. And here we can see devices, all of them within this subnet that have been discovered. Now I can go through and look at specific entities on these. These are going to be hardware, or they're going to be volumes, or they're going to be interfaces. They're going to be basic health of the device. I can go through and add them all. I can also just go back to my discovery under settings and say add all of those entities. So if I go back to my network discoveries and I come back to this lab here, I can say import all results. And then I can also track the progress of that on my events page as well. But it will go through and import all of those results. So once this one is finished, this will tell me when it's ready to go, the one that I just ran. And I would have the same options as I just examined here for examining and importing the entities that were detected in that subnet. For further information using SolarWinds Observability SaaS and its features, please look to the SolarWinds Observability SaaS Fundamentals class on the customer portal.